First, you'll take a backup of the current live site. I mentioned that in the pre-migration instructions, but it's especially important with this scenario. Then install free SSL certificate if there isn't one installed already. You'll reset the live WordPress site back to a completely fresh install and then perform the migration. Once the migration is complete, you'll log into WordPress on the live domain. Your login will now be the login that you had for the development site. Set up HTTPS redirection to redirect any visits from HTTP to the HTTPS version. Use Elementor's Replace URLs tool and then install and run the Better Search Replace plugin to search and replace all remaining development URLs. You'll allow search engines by unchecking discourage search engines, give the site a visual check over, check redirects are working as expected, and take a manual backup of the live site. In the previous lesson on pre-migration tasks, I urged you to take a backup of the current live site. This is especially important here. You really need to be able to easily revert back if the migration fails for some reason. If there isn't one installed already, make sure there's an SSL certificate installed for the domain of this server, used in the free Let's Encrypt service that hopefully the host offers. You're able to install an SSL certificate on this hosting now because the live domain is already pointed to it. Before you migrate the development site to the live site, it is best to reset the live WordPress to a fresh install. All migration plugins recommend that you migrate to a fresh copy of WordPress. You can reset the live site with the WP Reset plugin. Now that the fresh live WordPress install is ready, it's time to migrate your development site to it using your migration tool of choice. I covered this in the intro lesson at the very top of this page. Once the migration is complete, the previous fresh live install has now been completely replaced with the development site. You'll now have to re-log into WordPress again, and your login will now be the one that you logged into your development site with. Once you log in, please double check in Settings General that the site URLs are correct and as expected. Double check that they are either the www or not the www, depending on which one you chose. It should match whatever version you have set as the primary domain for this site. And if the URLs are not HTTPS, then change them to HTTPS and save the settings. It's important to make sure that any incoming traffic for non-secure HTTP URLs is redirected to the secure HTTPS equivalent. So first in WordPress, go to Settings General and double check again that the protocol in both URLs is set to HTTPS. It might be already. And then in your hosting control panel, turn on the Force SSL feature. It might be called Force SSL or Redirect SSL or HTTPS redirection, whatever your host calls it. Most hosts have this option. For example, it's here in Flywheel and it's here in Cloudways in application settings. If you don't have this option, you can install a plugin instead called Really Simple SSL, but you have to always have it activated at all times for it to work. But you won't need that plugin if your host has a Force SSL feature. Usually, your migration tool will replace all the URLs from the development site in the database to the new equivalent live URLs. There are still a couple of extra manual steps to make. Go to Elementor, Tools and Replace URL. Put the development site's home URL here, including the HTTP or HTTPS bit at the start, and then put the live site's home URL here. Make sure that neither of them have a slash at the very end. Then hit Replace URL. Now just make sure that all references to the old URL in the database are definitely replaced as far as Elementor is concerned. This especially affects background images. But just to be really sure that you've caught all of the old development URLs, I would advise that you install and activate the Better Search Replace plugin. Again, exactly like with Elementor's Replace URL tool, you pop the development site URL here and the live site URL here with no slash at the end. You need to select all the tables here before running the search. I'd advise you to first run it with the Run as Dry Run box ticked, and that will tell you how many old URLs were found, but it won't actually run the replacing yet. It's just a test. And then come back and uncheck the box and run it again to actually run the search and replace. This just makes absolutely sure that all the development site URLs have been caught and replaced. Then in Settings, read in Uncheck Discourage Search Engines. That is if you want to encourage search engines. I'm sure you do. Then visit the site and give it a visual check over and a test. Have a click around. Is everything there? Are all images displaying? Then check your redirects are working as expected. So first try visiting the URL of a page from the old site, one that you added to the redirection plugin in the previous lesson. It should redirect to the equivalent new page. Also, try visiting any page on the site with HTTP at the start rather than HTTPS. Does it redirect to the HTTPS version? It should. And then try visiting any page on the site with or without the www, basically the opposite version to the one that you chose. Does it redirect? A great tool to see what's happening with redirects is httpstatus.io. And finally, take a manual backup of the live site. So this is just a snapshot of the site when it was first migrated over.